Alright, you guys, you don't understand how excited I was seeing the spoilers for chapter 239, because it meant that I was right. I predicted that Nagi was going to majorly fail in this arc since over 3 months ago, but in this video, I explain why this is happening to him and why it's actually the best thing that could happen to his character. But before that, let's get into the chapter 239 review where I'll share all my thoughts, feelings, and opinions. So if you guys enjoy the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. I am on the road to 1K subscribers, so any support is appreciated. Let's first start with a summary of chapter 239. The chapter starts with the ending of the last chapter with Izaki and Hiyori celebrating their victory of scoring the last goal and beating Ubers, which also officially confirms that the Ubers match is indeed over, since a popular fan theory that had been revolving around since the end of the last chapter is that Izaki's score wasn't going to count because it was offside. But nope, it's officially over. Next, we see everyone else's reactions with various faces of excitement, shock, and upset. But specifically, Kaiser is extremely upset, realizing he has officially lost for the first time to Izaki, and even screams to let out his frustration. After finishing celebrating with the other bastard players, besides of course Kaiser and Ness, Izaki and Hiyori begin to have a conversation, where Hiyori tells Izaki that he had plans to quit football after this game, but helping Izaki to score that final goal has made him start to rethink things, and he feels like he just can't quit now. The chapter then cuts to the PXG versus Manshine match, the other match that had been going on during the Ubers versus Bastard match, and we see the shocking final results of the match, where Manshine has lost the game only scoring 1 goal, while PXG won with 3 goals. But what makes it so shocking is the fact that Rin scored a hat trick, having scored all 3 goals, while the only goal scored by Manshine was by Chigiri, meaning that Nagi and Ryo, the duo, hadn't scored 1 goal in the entire match. So we get a lot of information from this chapter. Some of it is things we already knew was coming, such as Kaiser was going to be extremely upset about Izaki's last goal, and Hiyori is going to rethink about quitting football in Blue Lock because of him and Izaki producing that final goal. But there were things that were pretty shocking, such as Rin's hat trick. Since everyone knows that Rin is currently the best player in Blue Lock, even with the extreme development of the other players in this arc. But I feel like most people were not predicting Rin was going to get a hat trick in the NEL, since he is on the same team as Shidou, a scoring machine. So most people figured that Rin was going to have to constantly share his goals with Shidou, since Baru getting a hat trick made the most sense, since the whole strategy of the Ubers team was feeding all their goals to Baru, meaning he never had to compete with other players on his team for goals. While other characters such as Bachira, Nagi, and Rin, while the centers of their team, for Bachira, he is sadly just on the worst team in the NEL, and there's only so much he can do on his own. For Nagi, he still has other people on his team that want to score, such as Chigiri and Ryo, who will both go for goals if they see the opportunity. And then for Rin, like I said, he's on the same team as Shidou, someone who's also trying to score just as much. So the fact that Rin got a hat trick is pretty crazy. I did think Rin was going to be the top of the values after his match to hype up his upcoming showdown with Izaki, but the fact that he got a hat trick shows that Rin is at the top of his game right now, and he's not going to give up his title as the #1 player in Blue Lock easily. But now let's talk about the other shocking revelation from this chapter, which was even though Nagi and Ryo have officially come back together as a duo and are considered one of the strongest duos in Blue Lock, they were not able to produce 1 goal together, with Nagi even telling Ryo in a brief moment during the match, from what we saw, he is basically helpless against Rin and he is too strong for him. Now, this might be shocking to some people that the author would make Nagi lose so bad to PXG, since most people were expecting Manshine to lose against PXG, myself included, but most people probably thought that Manshine would put up a good fight against PXG, with at least 1 or 2 goals being done by Nagi. But this wasn't the case, since the only goal produced was by Chigiri. Also, side note, but I am really happy that Chigiri scored that 1 goal against PXG. Since Chigiri being my favorite character, I know I'm pretty biased towards him, but I've always felt that a lot of people just boil down Chigiri's character to either his injury, assuming he's just going to get injured again at any given moment, or say that he's just all speed and doesn't have much else going on as a player. So seeing him score a goal against the best team in the NEL, which is something that not even Ryo and Nagi could do, the two players that most people would put above Chigiri in terms of skill, was nice to see. Since I'm not suddenly saying that Chigiri is way better than certain Blue Lock players, but this moment does go to show that Chigiri has a lot more going on than people give him credit for. But anyways, enough about Chigiri. I do want to do a Chigiri video at some point in the future, but that's not today. So getting back to Nagi, it makes sense why people would think Nagi would at least do somewhat decent in the PXG match, since he has done one of the most amazing goals we have seen in Blue Lock, which is the 5-shot revolver. And while Iko has stated that Nagi could probably not produce a goal like that again, at least not now, there is no denying that it took a lot of skill for Nagi to do that, and he is an amazing player. Plus, going back with Ryo meant that Nagi shouldn't have been beaten this badly. So what is going on? Well, I feel like to have an explanation to this, it goes back to a video that I did in July called Why Nagi Needs to Fail in the Neo Egoist League arc. In this video, I basically explained that now that Nagi's rivalry was done with Izaki, and he didn't know what he should do next, his character was in an odd place. And the question came of, what was next for Nagi's character development? Well, I explained that the best thing that could actually happen to him was for Nagi to do poorly in the league and to keep losing, since this would actually help his character. Since many people felt like Ryo and Nagi getting back together as a duo was a regression in both their development, since relying too much on each other meant that Nagi's creativity as a player was going to be stunted, while Ryo's growth as a player was going to be stunted. And this meant at some point, Ryo and Nagi would hit their limit of how good they could be together with where they were at currently. So I proposed that Nagi needed to do bad in the rest of the league and drop down in values, especially with him starting so strong, to show that he can't just rely on Ryo and he needs to grow on his own as an individual player, while also building up his frustration with losing over and over again. I said it would be best that happens now in this arc so Nagi could begin to have his growth now instead of majorly failing in a future arc. Blue Lock has always shown that codependency isn't a good thing, so I knew that Nagi and Ryo would run into issues now that they were dependent on each other again. The question was just when it would happen. So the fact that the author is showing how poorly they did in the PXG match means that Nagi is already going to have to learn this harsh lesson. Now, in my original video, I stated that Nagi would do poorly for the rest of the league to the point where Ego would not even put him in the starting lineup of the U20 Japan team, and he would have to go on a journey of redemption where he would have to prove that he is a good player and work his way into the starting lineup. And that could still be a possible direction for Nagi, but the next place that Nagi might be getting his redemption is in the next match that Manshine will be playing, which is Manshine versus Ubers. If you've read episode Nagi, then you know that Nagi has an intense rivalry with Baru, and probably the only other person that has made Nagi feel fired up to an extreme point besides Izaki is Baru. So both Baru and Nagi, having lost their matches, I'm sure they're both going to be extremely fired up about winning, especially knowing that they're going to be facing each other. If Nagi wins this match against Ubers, then he could get his redemption early on. But low-key, I do hope that he loses this match as well or does poorly, since it would force Nagi to do the one thing that he hates most, which is working hard. Since to give Nagi a massive loss in PXG, only for him to instantly recover with a win against Ubers, wouldn't feel like his character is getting the lesson that he needs. So I think the route that will be taken is the original one I came up with, which is that Nagi will not do well for the rest of the league and will have to go on an arc of redemption. But no matter what, we will at least see the game eventually in episode Nagi, which should be an amazing read. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that something I had talked about so many months ago had basically come true. Since at the time when I made the video, Nagi was second in rankings, so it seemed crazy to say that he wasn't going to do well. But narrative-wise, it makes sense why Nagi is going on this journey. So I hope I was able to explain why Nagi is failing so badly right now and why it will work in his favor in the future. So giving my final thoughts on this chapter, I thought this was a really good chapter. It gave the perfect balance of showing us the aftermath of the Ubers match, but also revealing just enough new information to get people talking. So hopefully within the next chapter or two, we will get the rankings. I'm definitely assuming that Rin is going to be at top with his hat trick, but I'm curious where characters such as Nagi and Shidou will place since they didn't score in their matches. Let me know all your thoughts and feelings about this chapter and what you think is going to happen next. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!